Welcome to the Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas, your AI research lead, always scanning the horizon for what's next.
And I'm Aiva. Together, we keep you sharp, informed, and ahead of the curve.
Let's get into it. All right, so Google just dropped Gemini 2.0, and I'm not going to bury the lead here. This might be the most capable AI model anyone can use right now. We're talking state-of-the-art on coding, math, vision, and it's genuinely multimodal in a way we haven't really seen before.
Wait, hold on. Before everyone gets whiplash from how fast this year is moving, can we just acknowledge that we're now on version 2.0 of a model that didn't even exist 2 years ago? Like, the pace here is absolutely wild.
Right? And we've also got OpenAI's new O3 model breaking records on an AI benchmark so hard that the test might actually be retired. Plus, some really clever research on making AI agents way more reliable. So yeah, buckle up. It's Friday, July 24th, 2026. This is Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. Let's dive in.
Okay, so Gemini 2.0. Google officially launched this yesterday, and the headline number that everyone's talking about is that it's hitting 92.4% on the MMLU Pro benchmark. For context, that's testing the model across math, science, reasoning, coding, basically everything you'd want an AI to be good at. And it's outperforming GPT 4.5 and Cloud 3.7 on most tasks.
And this is their Flash variant, right? Which is supposed to be the faster, more efficient version.
Exactly. That's what's kind of blowing my mind here. Flash models are usually the ones where you sacrifice a bit of capability for speed, but Gemini 2.0 Flash is legitimately competing with, and in many cases beating, everyone else's flagship models. The full Pro version is coming in early August, and Google's saying it's going to be even more capable.
So what's actually different about 2.0? Because we've had Gemini 1.5 for a while now, and it was already pretty good.
Great question. So the big thing is what Google's calling native multimodality. Gemini 2.0 can take in text, images, audio, and video all at once, and it can generate text, images, audio, and even call tools all in a single model. It's not like stitching different models together with API calls. It's one unified system.
That's actually a pretty big architectural shift, because most of the current systems are basically clever orchestration layers, right? You've got a language model that decides when to call Dolly or a voice synthesis API or whatever.
Right. This is more like, okay, imagine instead of having a team where one person handles emails, another handles phone calls, and another handles video conferences, and they're all passing notes to each other. You have one person who can just seamlessly do all of it. The coordination overhead disappears.
I like that analogy. So what does that actually unlock in practice?
Well, Google's showcasing a few things. First, there's a new feature called Deep Research that's rolling out in Gemini Advanced. You basically give it a research question, and it'll spend several minutes, sometimes up to 10 minutes, searching the web, synthesizing information, following leads, and then generating a comprehensive report with citations.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just doing a single search and summarizing the top results?
No, it's more iterative. According to the announcement, it's building a research plan, executing searches, reading through sources, identifying gaps, doing follow-up searches. It's actually behaving like a research assistant would. And early user reports are saying the output quality is surprisingly good, like genuinely useful for getting up to speed on complex topics.
That could be really powerful for people who need to do market research or literature reviews or, I don't know, trying to understand a new industry, the kind of thing where you'd normally spend hours going down rabbit holes.
Exactly. And then there's Project Mariner, which is their AI agent that can actually control the web browser. You can tell it something like, find me the best price for this specific camera, or schedule a dinner reservation for 4 people next Saturday, and it'll navigate websites, fill out forms, click buttons, the whole thing.
Okay, that's both impressive and slightly concerning. Like, we're now at the point where AI can actually take actions on our behalf on the web.
Yeah, and Google's being pretty careful about it. It's currently in a trusted tester program, not widely available yet, and they're building in confirmation steps for anything that involves payments or sensitive actions. But the fact that it works at all is significant. They're demoing it navigating complex multi-step workflows.
How is it actually doing that technically? Is it using computer vision to see the screen, or is it parsing the HTML, or?
It's using the multimodality capabilities to understand what's on screen. So yeah, essentially vision, combined with understanding web page structure. And then it has the ability to generate actions like clicks, scrolls, text input. It's all integrated into that native multimodality we were talking about.
Right, because it's not just seeing pixels, it understands that this is a button, or this is a form field, or this is a confirmation dialog.
Exactly. And Google's also releasing something called Jules, which is specifically for developers. It's an AI agent that integrates directly into GitHub workflows and can actually fix bugs, prepare pull requests, handle merge conflicts. It's like having a junior developer on your team that works 24/7 and never gets tired.
Okay, I have questions about that one because we've had AI coding assistants for a while now, Copilot, Cursor, all of those. What makes this different?
So the difference is agency. Copilot-style tools are autocomplete on steroids, right? They suggest code as you're writing. Jules is more like you assign it a task and it goes off and does it. You could say, hey, there's a bug in issue 347. Can you investigate and fix it? And it'll look at the code, understand the problem, write a fix, test it, and open a PR for you to review.
And it can handle merge conflicts? Because that actually requires understanding not just what code does, but what changes different people are trying to make and how to reconcile them.
Yeah, according to the announcement, it can. I think the key is that Gemini 2.0 has a 2 million token context window, so it can literally hold your entire code base in memory and reason about it holistically. It's not just looking at a single function in isolation.
2 million tokens. That's, what, like 1.5 million words? That's several novels worth of context.
Right, it's kind of absurd, and that's available in the Flash model, which remember is the fast one. They've also added improved spatial understanding and multilingual capabilities. The model speaks over 100 languages fluently, and it can understand 3D scenes and spatial relationships in images and video.
Give me an example of what that means in practice.
So you could show it a video of your living room and ask, would this couch fit in that corner? And it could actually reason about dimensions in space. Or you could give it a diagram of a complex machine and ask it to identify which part would need to be removed first to access a specific component.
That's actually super useful for things like furniture shopping or home repair, or I'm thinking about industrial applications, right? Like maintenance technicians trying to understand complex equipment.
Totally. And Google's clearly positioning this as a platform for agents. They've got Project Mariner for web browsing, Jules for coding, Deep Research for information gathering. The through line is AI systems that can complete complex tasks autonomously, not just answer questions.
Which is clearly where the industry is heading. We've gone from text completion to question answering to task completion. What's the availability looking like? Can people actually use this yet?
Gemini 2.0 Flash is available now through Google AI Studio and the Gemini API. It's also rolling out in the Gemini app for people with Gemini Advanced subscriptions. Deep Research is available now in Advanced. Project Mariner and Jules are in trusted tester programs, so more limited availability.
And pricing?
They haven't announced major changes to pricing structure, so it looks like it'll be comparable to 1.5 Pro, which honestly is pretty aggressive given the performance improvements. Google's clearly trying to compete on both capabilities and cost here.
Yeah, and they need to, because OpenAI and Anthropic have been eating their lunch for a while in terms of mindshare. This feels like Google actually showing up to compete seriously.
Agreed. All right, speaking of OpenAI, we need to talk about Op3 because this is kind of bananas.
Oh boy, here we go.
So OpenAI just released early access to Op3, which is their new reasoning model, and it just scored 87.5% on the Arc AGI benchmark. And before you ask, is that good, the previous best score was around 55%. This is a massive jump.
Wait, that's not just incremental progress. What's Arc AGI testing exactly?
Okay, so Arc AGI was specifically designed to test abstract reasoning, the kind of pattern recognition and logical thinking that humans find intuitive, but AI has historically struggled with. It's these visual puzzles where you have to figure out the underlying rule and apply it to a new situation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you see 3 grids showing different colored shapes, and there's some transformation happening. Maybe all the red squares are moving to corners, or maybe shapes of the same color are grouping together. You need to figure out the rule and then apply it to a new grid you haven't seen before.
So it's not something you can just memorize from training data. You actually have to reason about it.
Exactly. That's why it was considered a good test for general intelligence. Humans typically score above 85% on this without any practice. AI has been stuck in the 30–50% range for years, and now Op3 is at 87.5%.
Okay, so is this HEI? Are we done? Should we all go home?
No, definitely not. But it is a significant milestone. Francois Chollet, who created the benchmark, actually said that with this result, Arc AGI is probably no longer an effective benchmark for frontier AI systems. They might need to design something harder.
Which is wild to say out loud. Congratulations, you beat our intelligence test so thoroughly we need to make a harder one.
Right? And what's interesting is how Op3 achieves this. It's using extended reasoning, basically spending more compute time at inference to think through problems step by step.
OpenAI showed results at different compute budgets, and there's a clear correlation between how much time you give it to think and how well it performs.
So it's the same approach as the O1 models, but scaled up?
Essentially, yeah, but the scaling here is really effective. On the high compute setting, it's not just a little better, it's crushing benchmarks that were supposed to be hard for years to come. And it's not just ArcAGI. On the Epoch AI Frontier Math benchmark, which tests really advanced mathematics, OP3 is getting over 25% accuracy.
And that's good? That doesn't sound impressive.
Okay, context. The previous best AI score was around 2%. Human expert mathematicians score about 60–70%. So going from 2% to 25% is enormous. These are research-level math problems that professional mathematicians would need hours or days to solve.
Oh, wow. Okay, that reframes it.
Yeah, and on coding benchmarks like Codeforces, OP3 is performing at the level of a highly competitive programmer. It's not just writing code that works, it's solving algorithmic problems that would qualify you for programming competitions.
So what's the catch? There's always a catch with these things.
Well, a few things. First, this is early access, not a wide release. They're being pretty careful about who gets access and how it's used. Second, the high compute mode is expensive. We're talking potentially hundreds of dollars per task for the most complex reasoning. Third, it's still not perfect. 87.5% on ArcAGI is amazing, but it's not 100%. It still fails in ways that can be unpredictable.
And presumably it still has some of the classic AI failure modes, right? Like it might be brilliant at abstract reasoning, but then confidently tell you something completely wrong about a simple fact.
That's actually less of an issue with the O-series models because of how they're trained to reason. But yeah, they're not infallible. The bigger question is what this means for the trajectory we're on. If we're jumping from 55% to 87.5% in one generation, and if there's a clear compute scaling path to make it better, where does this go?
That's the question, isn't it? Are we on a smooth curve toward increasingly capable systems, or are there going to be plateaus and barriers we haven't hit yet?
Right. And OpenAI is clearly betting on the smooth curve hypothesis. They're investing heavily in scaling up these reasoning approaches. Sam Altman mentioned that OP3 represents a fundamental shift in how they're thinking about model capabilities.
When's this actually going to be widely available?
They haven't announced a specific date. Early access is rolling out now to researchers and select partners. Based on the pattern with O1, we might see a broader release in the next few months, but that's speculation.
And I assume safety testing is a big part of the delay.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have a system that can reason through complex problems and potentially find novel solutions, you need to be really careful about edge cases and potential misuse. OpenAI is doing red teaming and working with safety researchers to understand the risks.
Makes sense. All right, what else are we covering today?
So we've got some really interesting research from Anthropic on making AI agents more reliable. There's a new open source model from Alibaba that's turning heads, and some rapid-fire updates and quick hits. Let's talk about the Anthropic research first, because this is addressing a real problem.
Agents that actually work reliably?
Exactly. So here's the issue. Everyone's building AI agents now, right? Things that can book flights, manage calendars, handle customer service. But there's this huge gap between works in a demo and works reliable enough to trust with real tasks. Anthropic just published research on something they're calling constitutional agent training.
Okay, I'm guessing this is related to their constitutional AI approach for safety?
Same philosophy, different application. The idea is that instead of just training an agent to complete tasks, you train it with explicit rules about how it should behave. Things like always confirm before spending money, don't make irreversible changes without approval, explain your reasoning when asked.
So it's like giving the agent a code of conduct that's baked into its decision-making process?
Exactly. And what's clever is how they're doing it. They're using the model's own reasoning capabilities to evaluate whether an action follows the Constitution, and then training it to prefer actions that do. So it's not just rule following through brute force. The agent actually learns to reason about whether what it's doing is appropriate.
Can you give me a concrete example of where this makes a difference?
Sure. Let's say you have an agent that's helping you book travel. Old approach, you tell it, book me a flight to New York next week. And it just does it. Finds the cheapest flight, books it, done. Constitutional approach, it finds options, presents them to you with trade-offs, confirms you want to proceed, books it, then confirms the booking was successful. If something goes wrong, it explains what happens and asks how to proceed.
That seems like basic good behavior for an agent. Why do we need special training for that?
Because it's actually really hard to get consistent. Without this kind of training, agents will behave unpredictably. Sometimes they'll ask for confirmation, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll explain themselves, sometimes they'll just act. And when you're dealing with real-world tasks that have consequences, that inconsistency is a deal breaker.
Right, because you can't trust it if you don't know what it's going to do.
Exactly. And Anthropic's research shows that with constitutional training, they can get agents that are both more capable and more predictable. They tested this on a suite of tasks, things like managing emails, doing research, making purchases, and the constitutionally trained agents had significantly fewer failures and errors.
What counts as a failure here?
Things like taking an action without proper authorization, making assumptions instead of asking for clarification, getting stuck in loops where they keep trying the same failed approach, or giving up too early when a task is actually solvable. Basically, the kinds of behaviors that would make you go, no, that's not what I wanted at all.
And the constitutionally trained agents did better on all of that?
Yeah, substantially. They also released the training approach as open research, so other labs can implement it, which is cool. This is the kind of foundational safety work that benefits everyone.
Is this being used in Claude already, or is this future work?
Some of these techniques are already incorporated into Claude's agent capabilities, but this research represents a more systematic approach that they're continuing to refine. They're also working with enterprise partners who are deploying agents at scale to test this in real-world conditions.
That makes sense. Okay, what's this about Alibaba? I feel like we don't talk about Chinese AI companies as much as we probably should.
Yeah, that's fair. So Alibaba just released Qwen 2.5 Coder 32B, and it's an open source coding model that's legitimately competing with GPT-4 and Claude on programming tasks. And when I say open source, I mean actually open. You can download it, run it locally, fine-tune it, whatever you want.
Wait, 32 billion parameters, and it's competing with the big frontier models on coding? How is that possible?
Specialization and really good training data. This model was trained specifically for code with a huge data set of high-quality programming examples across dozens of languages. And because it's focused, it can pack a lot of capability into a smaller size.
What are the benchmarks showing?
On Human Eval, which is a standard coding benchmark, it's scoring around 89%. That's higher than GPT-4's base score and comparable to Claude 3.7. On more complex tasks like debugging and code review, it's also performing really well. Not quite at the level of the very best proprietary models, but close enough that for a lot of use cases, the difference won't matter.
And the fact that it's open source is huge, right? Because you can actually run this on your own infrastructure.
Totally. If you're a company that's serious about code security or data privacy, being able to run a capable coding model entirely on premises is a big deal. You're not sending your proprietary code base to OpenAI servers.
How much hardware do you need to run this? Like, can a normal developer run this locally, or do you need a data center?
So 32 billion parameters means you need a pretty beefy GPU, but it's not crazy. With a high-end consumer GPU like an RTX 4090 or a Mac Studio with lots of RAM, you can run it. It's not fast, but it's usable. If you want good performance, you'd want something like an A100 or H100, which yeah, that's more enterprise level.
Still, the fact that it's possible to run locally at all is significant, and I assume people can use quantized versions that are smaller.
Yep, the community's already putting out quantized versions that run on less powerful hardware. You trade off a bit of quality for accessibility, but for a lot of tasks, it's more than good enough.
What languages does it support? Is it just Python, or?
It covers all the major ones: Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, C++, Go, Rust. According to the model card, it was trained on over 80 programming languages. Obviously, it's better at some than others, but the breadth is impressive.
Has the community done anything cool with it yet?
Oh yeah, people are already fine-tuning it for specific domains. There are versions tuned for embedded systems programming, for data science workflows, for web development with specific frameworks. That's the beauty of open source. Once it's out there, people adapt it for their needs.
This is the future we were promised, right? Where you can have a capable AI assistant that you actually own and control.
Exactly, and it's validating for the open source approach. For a while, there was this narrative that open models would always be way behind proprietary ones, but the gap is shrinking fast, at least for specialized tasks like coding.
All right, should we hit quick hits?
Let's do it. First up, Meta announced that Llama 3.5 will be released in mid-August. No detailed specs yet, but they're teasing significant improvements in reasoning and multimodal understanding. This would be their first model since Llama 3.1, which came out last fall.
And presumably still open source?
That's the expectation, yeah. Meta's been pretty consistent about their open source strategy. They see it as a way to build ecosystem lock-in and get free fine-tuning from the community.
Makes sense. What else?
NVIDIA announced new AI inference chips that they're claiming 40% more efficient than the current generation. These are specifically designed for running AI models in production, not training them. Big deal for companies deploying models at scale, because inference costs are usually the bigger ongoing expense.
When are those available?
They start shipping to partners in Q4 this year, broader availability early next year.
Got it. Next?
Microsoft integrated AI capabilities directly into Excel in a pretty significant way. You can now do things like create a sales forecast based on this data, or identify anomalies in this dataset, and it'll actually build the formulas, generate pivot tables, create visualizations, not just suggest what to do, but actually do it.
Wait, is this Copilot, or is this something new?
It's an expansion of Copilot, but the level of integration is deeper than before. It understands spreadsheet context really well and can do complex multi-step operations. Early reviews from finance and data analyst communities are pretty positive.
That could be genuinely useful for a lot of people who use Excel as their primary analytical tool.
Absolutely, and is rolling out to Microsoft 365 Business subscribers starting next week.
Nice. What else?
There's a new AI benchmark specifically for testing multimodal understanding called Cosmos, created by a collaboration between several academic institutions. It focuses on complex reasoning across text, images, and video, things like understanding cause and effect in visual scenes, or following complex instructions that require integrating multiple types of information.
Do we have scores on it yet from the major models?
Yeah, preliminary results show GPT 4.5 and Gemini 2.0 in the lead at around 71–73%, Claude 3.7 at about 68%, and everyone else significantly behind. But it's early days for this benchmark, so those numbers will probably shift as models get optimized for it.
Another benchmark for the collection. Are we at risk of having too many benchmarks?
Maybe, but I think as long as they're testing genuinely different capabilities, it's useful to have variety. The problem is when benchmarks become targets that models are explicitly trained to game.
Right. Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Exactly. Last quick hit. Hugging Face launched the new platform for collaborative AI development called Spaces Teams. It's basically GitHub for AI projects, with built-in hosting for models and demos, version control for datasets, and collaboration tools.
That seems like it could be really useful for research teams or companies building AI products.
Yeah, and it's free for open source projects, pay tiers for private work. They're clearly trying to position themselves as the infrastructure layer for the AI development ecosystem.
Makes sense given how much of the open source AI world already runs on their platform.
All right, I think that's everything we've got for today. This was a big one. Gemini 2.0 is a major release. O3 is breaking benchmarks, and there's just a ton happening in the agent space.
Yeah, if someone had told me 2 years ago that we'd be casually discussing AI systems that can control web browsers and fix bugs autonomously, I probably would have believed them, but I would have thought it was further out.
Right? The pace of progress is just relentless. Every week there's something that would have been headline news 6 months ago, and now it's just another item on the list.
So what should people actually pay attention to from today's episode, if they're going to take away one thing?
I think it's that we're in the middle of a shift from AI as a tool that answers questions to AI as a system that completes tasks. Gemini 2.0's agent capabilities, O3's reasoning abilities, the work on reliable agents, it's all pointing in the same direction. The next phase is AI that can actually do things for you, not just help you do things.
And that's exciting. But it also means we need to figure out the trust and reliability piece, because if these systems are going to be taking actions on our behalf, they need to be predictable and safe.
Agreed. Which is why I'm glad to see companies actually investing in that foundational work, like the Anthropic research we talked about. It's not as flashy as new model breaks benchmark, but it's arguably more important for real-world deployment.
Absolutely. Okay, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who'd find it interesting, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're doing this every week, bringing you the most important AI news with actual context and analysis, not just hype.
You can find us on all the major podcast platforms, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. What are you most excited about? What are you worried about? Find us on social media and let us know.
Thanks for listening to Semper AI Digest.
We'll catch you in the next one.